मनसि प्रतिष्ठिता मनो मे वाचि प्रतिष्ठितम् आविराविर्मयेधि वेदस्य मआणिस्थ श्रुतं मे मा प्रहासीः अनेनाधीतेनाहोरात्रान् सन्दधामि ऋतं वदिष्यामि सत्यं वदिष्यामि तन्मामवतु तद्वक्तारमवतु अवतु माम् अवतु वक्तारमवतु वक्तारम् ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः Om. May my speech be firmly established in my mind. May the mind too be firmly established in my speech. O self-effulgent Lord, be revealed in my consciousness. May the truths of the scriptures come to me. May what I learn from them never forsake me. Let me live my life day and night according to their teachings. I shall speak what is appropriate. I shall speak the truth. May that protect me. May that protect the teacher. Om. Peace, peace, peace. Let us feel, friends, our true, divine, ever perfect, ever pure, true self as the source of all love, all beauty. One way to feel that is to imagine that there is a beautiful lotus in our heart. And in that there is the God sitting in whatever form we love most. God has assumed that form for us. Although omniscient and omnipresent, beyond all names and forms, it has assumed an exquisitely beautiful form. And is seated in this beautiful crimson colored lotus in our heart. The brilliant radiance of this divine is spreading in my whole personality. I am feeling the most attractive, most beautiful presence of the divine, the God, my ideal. I feel I am drawn towards it. My whole personality is absorbed in this divine radiance of love. Om. Peace, peace, peace. So friends, let us begin with our usual chant when it is displayed on the screen. तव कथामृतं तप्तजीवनं कविभिरीडितं कल्मषापहम् श्रवणमङ्गलम् श्रीमदाततं भुवि गृह्णन्ति ते भूरिदा जनाः. In the discussion of how Sri Ramakrishna's teachership, the Guru Bhava, was scattered and how people in various ways got in touch with it and their life got either fulfilled or proceeded on the way to fulfillment. uh, the chapter that we have been seeing is where Sri Ramakrishna comes in touch with the devotees, spiritual aspirants from various different sects. Now, what is a sect? And we must understand that to be part of a sect is very good. In fact, it is important. What is not good is sectarianism. Means my sect alone is true, it alone is good, there is no salvation or no hope beyond it. To think like that is sectarianism. But every person has a particular bend of mind, and then according to that, that person moves towards the highest ideal, feels the ideal according to that mental constitution, and moves along that path. These paths are going to be different due to similarities. They get grouped into different kind of boxes. These are called the sects. Nothing wrong in that. It is just following the mental constitution, that's it, that hold on to God and proceed along with what is most convenient for your constitution. That is how things will go. For example, if I have to go from this corner of the room to that, I will walk to whatever is the shortest path available. Now there are chairs in between, so I don't want to get stumbled there. So I will see where I can go between the chairs and ultimately get there. And that would be my way of going. Suppose there is, say, a bird. It will not have to go negotiating the chairs. It will fly like that. Some insect may take a different way, will be going according to the air pressures, whatever is the path of least resistance, that it will find like that. An ant will go in its own way. That is how they all will be going differently. Suppose there is a rope hanging from this end to that end, and there is a curve there. Now imagine an ant on that rope. Now for that ant the path will be along that rope, and that is the constitutionally most suitable and shortest path for the ant. In a Euclidean geometry, that will not be the shortest path. But if you see that the surfaces that are constitutionally suitable for us, we go by the shortest distances, but shortest distance along one track may not be the shortest distance by another track. So it is like that, that every person would have a preferential way to proceed towards the ideal. And that should be the case, that should be respected. But then there should not be the attempt to say that, well, that ant also has to fall from the rope and come along the path that I am going. It also has to negotiate these chairs as I am doing. No, the ant has a different track, different way of moving. So that's like that. A snake, don't get scared, there is not one, but if the snake is there, it will move in a different way. So, therefore, this is how the sects are. And there are, actually speaking, as many sects as are human beings. And we are just thinking about human beings as the spiritual aspirants for now. So, it is every human being. One way that Swami Vivekananda has described it very beautifully is that, imagine that we all are like the points on the circumference of a circle. And then we have the same one ideal in life, the God, the Satchidananda, the existence, consciousness, bliss, congealed. That is the common ideal, and so that is the center of this circle. Now, everyone, we are on the circumference of the circle, we will move towards it, towards this center, and we will move along the radius that connects me to that center. Now, I will move from my point along the radius that connects me, that point, my position, to the center, the God. Paul will have a different point to start with, and so he will be moving on another line. AJ will be going by another line, and that is how it should be. It is, everybody is therefore having a different path. But then there are groups which are more or less close, and so they have certain common path, certain practices that they hold common amongst them, and so that becomes a sect. Now, the sects are therefore many, many different groups, and thus these groups, the aspirants from these groups came to Dakshineshwar, where Sri Ramakrishna was staying. They came not with the idea to meet Sri Ramakrishna. They were not meeting, they were not there to meet Sri Ramakrishna. And then they were, going on pilgrimage or just wandering monks. On their wandering, as has been explained earlier, that they found that this place, this Kali Badi, the Kali temple garden at Dakshineshwar, most convenient. So they decided to take their break, stayed there for a few days and marched ahead. And it was just a coincidence that they met Sri Ramakrishna. But whether by coincidence or by the conscious effort to do that, the result is the same, that they met Sri Ramakrishna, and thus they got the blessed opportunity to learn about their path. Sri Ramakrishna is the ideal of all different paths, as we had been seeing in this book right from the beginning, that he could see the path of everyone and would guide that person along that individual's path. So that is how his teachership was. It was not just thinking, trying to logically fit something, and then or one's own that agenda to become prominent amongst people. No, not such an agenda. He had absolutely no axe to grind, friends, but could see that this person is on this path and is finding certain obstructions here, which are part of the path, and then would guide that person to that path, how to move properly on that. So that is how he could see the progress of everyone, how that progress is happening and how it is going to happen. And thus proper guidance was provided. And here we saw that at one time there were many these, he calls them Paramahansas. They are the Vedanti monks, means they were busy discussing, contemplating on existence, consciousness, bliss, the God, that is Satchidananda or Asti Bhati Priya, that divine principle. They did not bother much about a particular image or such thing. They were focused on this existence, consciousness, bliss, and would sit in Sri Ramakrishna's room. Sri Ramakrishna was suffering with dysentery at that time, and then even though there was lot of pain, he was oblivious of that pain and would listen to all those discussions, and sometimes would suggest a solution to get to conclusion in a heated debate. So that is how many such monks came there. We saw a few examples there, that it is there was the two examples of that have been given. One who had Ananda Samadhi, means the Samadhi of Bliss. He was shown that he had a glow on his face, and he often, that is on page 372, he often remained seated in one place, just smiling. In the morning and evening, he would come out of his room and look around, seeing the trees, the bushes, the sky, and the Ganges. He would raise his arms and dance with joy. And at some other times will dance joyously, chanting some other things, saying, "Oh, how is this wonderful Maya?" The Maya here, the word would mean just the one appearing as many. How wonderful this magic is, that the one is appearing as many as well. The apparent contradictions are no contradictions in divine. In divine, they all sit without any conflict. It is with form and without form has no conflict. One and many has no conflict there. So he could see that and rejoice. And then another example was given, that this mendicant he saw sameness in everything. He would not associate with anyone, and Sri Ramakrishna, he tried to, he would just, his appearance was so terrible, just in contrast with this other ever joyous, ever smiling, happy mendicant. He wore what would commonly be considered a very disgusting look. Nobody would approach him, and that is how he wanted it to be, that leave me alone. It is nobody needs to come near me. And he used to take the alms at the temple, and then would where the other mendicants would be sitting, nobody would like his company. He was so dirty, filthy. He would go to where the other beggars were sitting. They also would hoot him out. So he was eating along with a dog, with one arm around the dog, and the dog didn't mind that. It is strange, but that is how this is. They are strange people. And yet Sri Ramakrishna saw that he has this Samadhi. And he told Hriday that he has reached the highest stage. So he was really a Paramahamsa. That another example was given there, that and let me read the last part of that. Hriday wanted to hear something more and said, Maharaj, please make me your disciple and take me with you. But he went on without replying. When he had gone a great distance, he looked back and saw that Hriday was still following him. He made an angry face and picked up a brick, threatening to throw it at Hriday. When Hriday fled, he dropped the brick, left the road and disappeared. After that, he was nowhere to be found. And here Swami Saradananda uses the word, such great monks go around like that, so people won't bother them. This monk was a true Paramahamsa. That is how Sri Ramakrishna narrated this. And then it is described here that this is how scriptures say that, and this is a quote from Viveka Chudamani, that how the monks who have reached the highest stage of experiencing the infinite, they live sometimes like a child, sometimes like a ghoul, sometimes like a madman, and so forth. So their appearances differ, although the inner realization of the divine is same, identical. So this is the description. Now we move to page 574, and then he describes that many days passed, that of course in between he has described, Sri Ramakrishna said that like one practices to be childlike, because unless one is unattached like a child, one cannot realize God. Unattached means it is, see, these analogies and allegories and all such should be taken very carefully. They hinted, the point that is being hinted, that is to be taken. Not everything need not be taken literally. To be childlike does not mean that you should have a small stature like a child, no. Or you should actually take some toys that the children play with. That is not the meaning. Just as, so Sri Ramakrishna gives an analogy that if the child was presented by his mother a new cloth, and the child is very happy about it, if you ask the child, give me, no, he won't give. No, my mom has given me, it is mine. And not only that, would look at you with some sense of fear that you may try to snatch it away from him. So he would hold that cloth more hardly. And so it is like that. But then after a few minutes, if he sees a toy in your hand that he likes, now he says, okay, I will exchange this cloth with the toy. So the child has not much attachment. That you see, it is when they play, they make a nice sand castle on the seashore. Children, it is in my childhood also, it used to be my very favorite pastime. Go on the shore and take the sand and make a sand castle there. So now, while it is being made and you get involved in it, attached to it, my castle. And then when you are coming home back, just kick that castle, okay, done with it. No attachment with it. So only that part of the child's life is being thought of here. Not everything of a child. It is unattachment. The child doesn't have that kind of attachment. It is, so this is how a person who wants to stick to spiritual path should be. There should be no attachments. Now he is describing a completely different stream of spiritual aspirants. They are temperamentally devotees. Earlier also Swami Saradananda has described that there are all these paths can be broadly divided into two. One is called not this path, and the other is this path. They later at the end they converge. They appear to be opposite to each other, but they are not actually opposite to each other. I mean, not that if you go by one path you will get one thing, and by another path another thing. No. It is the same goal, but the path is completely different. Like the same example one can take, that it is they all are moving towards the center of the circle. Now somebody is say at one point of the circumference, another is just completely opposite, 180 degrees on the same circumference but opposite. Now they will be moving towards center in opposite directions. If one is moving westwards, the other will have to move eastwards. So one that path is not this, not this. Everything is seen that and rejected, that this is not the divine. Means the name and form is not real. That is the way, not this, not this. Anything like body, examine it, that which has form, and then you put a name to it, that which is born, changes and perishes. That is not what I am seeking. That is not God. I want that which is beyond all changes, and that which is beyond all limitations of form, name and such things. I want that. So you reject it is that which is not what you are seeking. Sri Ramakrishna gives an example that if you are seeking, say, a particular thing, say a knife, if you are seeking a knife, then this chair is not knife, this person is not knife, this light is not knife. Like that you reject all, and then when you find the knife, you say, this is it. So this is one way. The other way is feel the presence of God. Do not worry about all those forms and names and that which is, don't worry about saying no, not this, not this. Begin with this end, that this is, I want to hold on to God. Think of God. Think of what is real, rather than worrying about giving up that which is unreal. Just hold on to God. And this is the way of a devotee. The first was called the path of knowledge, the other gets called as the path of devotion. So for almost 99% people, the path of devotion is more suitable. Again, these are not mutually exclusive. That okay, you can practice both. That practice some understanding that no, this is not it, to remove the attachment to body, mind, people and things around. Very good. That doesn't mean that you are not following the path of devotion. It is important that even for following the path of devotion, you should have this too. So it is thus Sri Ramakrishna is now going to describe the aspirants, the mendicants of this path who had come to Dakshineshwar. There were seasons, that there is a season when these mendicants of this path of not this, not this, only Chetanananda, those people will be coming. Then their season would get over more or less, and then people going to the pilgrimages to these say Jagannath Puri, they are all aspirants following the path of devotion. So those followers of the path of devotion will then start coming. It is their season. Like the rainy seasons are usually, these mendicant belonging to this school, non-dual Vedanta school, they would be coming. Whereas after that, or even during the summers, would come those devotees who are worshipping God in a certain way. The formless is thought of through a form. That whole devotion is poured on God in that particular form. So that is how these mendicants would do the practice. And we are going to see the account here of a very inspiring, devotionally charged story. A story should not confuse us that it is something imaginary. This is something that happened there, actually happened. It is so surprising that many listeners would think that no, this is just figment of imagination. It is not, friends. It is something that truly happened. It is when you have that devotion, then these things are quite feasible. These are the phenomena that happen. Such things do happen. Now, he tells the story of Ramallah. And let me read from page 574. Many days passed. Gradually the visits of the Paramahamsa monks became fewer. The Ramayat Babajis then began to come in groups. Ramayat Babajis means they belong to a sect which worships God as incarnated in the form of Rama. They are called Ramayata. So they are worshippers of God in the form of Rama, through the tales of Rama, pouring their devotion to Rama. But they are not worshipping Ram as a human being alone. A human being that represents the Godhood. As that saying goes, that the Rama, that was the son of King Dashratha, Jo Ram Dashrath ka beta. This the one who was the son of King Dashratha. That Ram alone is in every single being. In every single being, in everything, that Rama is pervaded. Wahi Ram ghat ghat mein leta. That Ram again is this whole universe. Wahi Ram jagat pasera. And then he transcends this world as well. He remains beyond it too. Wahi Ram sabse nyara. So this is how they would be worshipping that reality through this Rama, this form of Rama. But their understanding is like this. It is now whatever you hold on to as the symbol or image of the divine, now that whole divinity gets manifested through that image. Remember, it is this is the principle that is used in the solving a problem in mathematics by algebraic method. That you assume the solution in all this school algebra, you must have all studied it, that you assume the answer to be, say, x. Now the question might be something like how many apples were there to begin with. Now you assume that number to be x. X is the apples. Now the apples do not become x, or the x doesn't become apple, but you imagine there, you feel there that this apple x is the number that I have to find out. That number corresponds to the number of the apples. So With that, you concentrate on X. Some problems are quite complicated, and you have to really focus on what you assumed to be the answer. Forget other parts, just hold on to this X and try to evaluate, and thus you come to the answer finally after going through maybe in some simple problems 3-4 steps are enough, if at all. In some many are very complicated problems, you have to keep on, say 200 steps you have to keep on calculating. So finally you get the answer, and then there is no need to hold on to X after that. But till then you have to keep on holding on to the X. If you forget it in between and then instead say it is Y, then the whole thing will be just confused. So therefore you have to hold to the chosen ideal till one realizes that ultimate goal, when the chosen ideal merges with the absolute. So that is how the method is. So these are the Ramayat sadhus. So they were considering their goal, the God, as embodied in this personality of Rama. So, and again there are divisions in that. Some would think of Rama as worshipped by Hanumanji, the monkey god, as they say, that Rama would be worshipped by many. Some would be thinking as Rama, who is the husband of Sita. So, how Sita looked upon him, that Rama. Some would think of Rama as the child, little Rama, being, you see, taken care of by his mother, Kaushalya. So that is how various moods you hold on to that one of them and proceed further in increasing the devotion to God through that. So that is what is happening here. So it is said here, they were wonderful monks, devout and full of renunciation. Ah, what devotion and faith they had! How steadfastly did they serve the Lord! It was from one of them that Ramallah came to me. This is a long story, and there is a footnote about Ramallah here. Ramallah is the form of Ramachandra as a boy. In the northwestern part of India, people affectionately call little boys Lal or Lala and girls as Lali. That is why the Jatadhari address the image of the boy Ramachandra, which was made of 8 metals, as Ramalala. The Bengali language, the words Dulal and Dulali are used in the same sense. So, a child, Rama, Ramlala. That Babaji, his name was Jatadhari, because he had lot of, the hair tuft was quite big, so his name became Jatadhari. So, served the image of Ramlala for many years. He carried his deity wherever he went. Whatever he got by begging, he would cook and offer to him. Not only that, he actually saw Ramallah eating the image of made of 8 metals, that small metal image. He saw that actually eating the food offered. Now, one may say, no, how it is possible? If you don't have the devotion, it is not possible. If you have that devotion, it is possible. There is something is possible for some, not for everybody. Naomi is looking with lot of skepticism here. That yes, it is for us, it is really fraught with lot of doubt. But if we have that kind of devotion, we certainly will be able to feel that. It is it is here we see that as the days passed, I felt that Ramallah loved me more and more. This is what Sri Ramakrishna is telling. As long as I remained with Jatadhari, Ramallah was happy and playful. But whenever I left and went to my own room, he followed me there at once. He wouldn't remain with Jatadhari. Now, how would it happen? It's a metal image. That how would it be mobile? I mean, just think about it. Well, just as that image can eat, it can run as well. It is living something. So, this is most human beings, not only in the modern era, even in the ancient times, would not take it very seriously as such. But this is how things do happen, friends. That it is, even though I ordered him not to come with me, he wouldn't listen. I thought at first that this must be an illusion, for how could the deity whom Jatadhari had worshipped for so long, with such devotion, love me more than him? But it was not my imagination. I actually saw Ramallah as I see you. As I see you. Sri Ramakrishna is narrating this to many in the room there. The author is one of them. That just as I see you, I saw Jatadhari as well, that this Ramallah as well coming to me. The Ramallah, how now dancing ahead of me, now following me, like the children, they go with their parents. I see many times at this village school in front, the little children, their parents, they come to drop them, and then they are running ahead of the parents sometimes they are following them, sometimes they run ahead and then turn towards their mother or dad and say something to them. Sometimes they want to be lifted up and taken. So many things are happening. So this Ramallah also would be playing like that. And now, sometimes he insisted on being taken on my lap, but then when I picked him up, he wouldn't want to stay there. He would run around in the sun, plucking flowers among the thorns, or splashing and swimming in the Ganges. I told him over and over again, "Don't do that, my child. You will get blisters on the soles of your feet if you run in the sun." You will catch cold and fever if you stay in the water so long. But he never listened to my words. However much I wanted him to, he would go right on with his pranks. Sometimes he would look at me sweetly with his beautiful eyes, or he would pout and make faces at me. Then I would get really angry and scold him. Just you wait, you rascal, I would tell him. I'll give you a big thrashing today. I'll pound your bones into powder. I would pull him out of the water or the sun and try to tempt him with some gift to stay and play inside the room. If he went on being naughty, I had given him a couple of slaps. But when I did that, he would pout and look at me with tears in his eyes, and I would feel such pain that I would take him on my lap and comfort him. All these things actually happened. One day, when I was going to bathe in the Ganges, he insisted on coming with me. What could I do? I had to let him. But then he wouldn't come out of the water. I begged him to, but he wouldn't listen. At last I got angry and I dunked him, saying, "All right, stay as long as you like." While I was doing this, I actually saw him gasping and struggling for breath. What am I doing? I thought to myself in dismay. I pulled him out of the water and took him in my arms. I can't describe how greatly another incident pained me and how bitterly I wept because of it. On that day, Ramallah kept asking me for something to eat, and all I had to give him was some coarse parched rice that wasn't properly husked. As he was eating it, the husk scratched his delicate, tender tongue. I felt so sorry. I took him on my lap and exclaimed, "Your mother Kausalya used to feed you cream and butter with the greatest care, and I have been so thoughtless, giving you this coarse food." While recounting this incident to us much later, Master became overwhelmed with the same feeling and began to cry so intensely that tears came from our eyes, although we did not have the slightest understanding of his loving relationship with Ramallah. So this is how so loving the relation with this child Rama's idol was. It is all Sri Ramakrishna is telling as he saw, he experienced, as it is real for him. Everything is real according to our level of perception, friends. Our level of perception depends on our stage of consciousness, where we are. It is, now for example, there are many spirits in this room, the ghosts and spirits. But since they are at a different level of existence, we are not able to see them. If we are at that level, we will be able to see them. We are not able to see the virus, but that doesn't mean it is not there. It is there, we are not at the level, our perception, our tools are not fine enough to see them. So, all these things which are real, when we attain to that superfine awareness of devotion, we will be able to feel these friends. So, this story continues how what happened next with Ramallah. A very interesting episode. I would have liked to read it today, but the clock is telling me it is late. It is 8:28 already. So we shall take a break, meditate on this for 30 seconds, and in case if you have some questions or comments, please feel free to ask. Yes, please.
Swamiji, there is no question here.
Okay.
I have a question.
Oh, you have a question. Okay.
We are studying the methods of knowledge.
Yes.
Perception, inference on various categories,
Yeah.
and transcendental. So the knowledge about Ramallah is a perception knowledge, but not through the instrument of perception, but through the organ of perception. Isn't it? The instrument of perception is not active in this case. Because other people won't be able to see him.
The instruments of perception is certainly active here also. But it is the instruments of Sri Ramakrishna are not same as the other common people's instruments. These instruments become enhanced because of the knowledge associated with it. For example, once it so happened that I was in one center to give some lecture, and there was farther away there was one devotee who was talking to somebody. He came almost rushing to me, and then he said, I saw from there is a lump under your chin here. I saw, and so I thought, let me examine it. How is it? And then he said, you better get it examined. It is swollen here. I said, nobody else told me. Say, there are so many people. He said, they won't see it. It is only we who are trained to see these things will see. It is something that according to our knowledge and our awareness, one is able to see in that sense. Now, of course, that Sri Ramakrishna's devotional awareness is so rare that almost you may say 99.99% people will not see that. But I have seen a few people who would actually feel those images to be very alive. And the others may not find it like that, but they would treat that image with same that feeling, that live presence there. If you read how that Swami Ramakrishna treated the image of Sri Ramakrishna, you can see the others were kind of not seeing this. But Ramakrishnananda, because of his particular mood, could see it. Once it so happened he had to go somewhere, and then he told one of other brother disciples to give Sri Ramakrishna. Now Sri Ramakrishna has passed away from the mortal frame. This is the image of Sri Ramakrishna. He told another brother monk, if I am not wrong, it is Niranjanananda, that okay, give Sri Ramakrishna this twig to brush his teeth. And Ramakrishnananda would every morning would give the twig after making that end soft for easy to be brushed. And then this Niranjanananda didn't do it. And then when Ramakrishnananda came and he saw that this twig was given without properly smothering and smoothing that hand, making it soft. He became so upset, so angry. He ran after this Niranjanananda to beat me, that I am seeing Sri Ramakrishna's mouth is bleeding, what did you do? Now, others would not be sharing this image, this perception. It is the real that he could see that image of Sri Ramakrishna in a different light. The same image, it is perceived by these eyes, but there is an enhanced facility that has been inserted there because of the devotion. So, because of the knowledge, because of the devotion, our perceptions which have the common aspect, but all common people will not have this aspect. So, it is perceived like that. Therefore, there is in the that methods of knowledge also, there is what is called alaukika pratyaksha. It is, pratyaksha means it is perceived by the senses, but it is not the common perception by the senses. It is because of a heightened level of love, devotion, these senses also become specially powered. So that is what it is. Yeah. Actually, that some of that will come in the discussion next Tuesday. Yes, Abhijit? Yeah.
Is it fair to say that it is a creation of their mind?
Everything is creation of the mind, isn't it? This question comes often, that it is what Jatadhari could see, what Sri Ramakrishna could see. Is it creation of their mind? Yes, it is creation of their mind, but you are seeing this fellow, that also is creation of your mind and the sensory apparatus together. It is the creation of the mind is, everything is creation of the mind. That is to be understood, that it is not only that perception, even this perception that we are having. If the mind is abstracted, you will not have this perception. So, mind is an essential ingredient in our instrument, our that total perception. Now, when people at the 99% human beings, or more than that, 99.99%, they have a particular type of sense organs connected with a particular mentality, and so what happens there is that is considered to be real, not their imagination. But when somebody has a special sense of perception, it is mental, it is their creation of their mind as much as our perception of this room and things and all that, that is the perception of mind. It is imagination of one's mind. So when we brand it that Jatadhari and Sri Ramakrishna seeing of Ramallah is an imagination of their mind, it is very fair if we understand that our seeing this world is also imagination of our mind. And since our mind lacks that devotion, our perception is different from that of Jatadhari and Sri Ramakrishna. That is how I understand it. This part also will come, because almost everybody is going to say that this is imagination of mind. That Swami Vivekananda, Narendranath would classify all these visions of Sri Ramakrishna as it is an imagination of your mind. Sri Ramakrishna would say that mother showed me what you are. He would say in front of everybody that one power, because of the partial manifestation of which Keshav Chandra Sen, who was a very highly respected religious leader, a tremendously influential orator, and a devotee of Sri Ramakrishna, he said the partial manifestation of one power which has made Keshav so great, I see 18 such powers fully blossomed in this Narendranath. Narendranath saying, no, please don't say, what are you talking about? Where is that world-renowned Keshav Chandra Sen, and where am I? Everybody would say that this is the imagination of Sri Ramakrishna. What is the true? It is really that he could see these things. Narendranath would brand all his Divine Mother told me. He would say that this is imagination of your mind. Is it imagination of his mind? Yes and no. According to our mind, our perception is, and therefore that everything can be called imagination of mind. Okay. So let us conclude with the closing prayers. We offer our salutations. No, this is the beginning prayer on Sundays. Closing prayer. Sorry, friends. May the Divine, who is Father in heaven of the Christians, Holy One of the Jewish faith, Allah of the Muslims, Buddha of the Buddhists, Tao of the Taoists, Great Spirit of the Native Americans, Ahura Mazda of the Zoroastrians, and Brahman of the Hindus, lead us from the unreal to the real, from darkness to light, from death to immortality. May the all-loving being manifest himself unto us and grant us abiding understanding and all-consuming divine love. Peace, peace, peace be unto all.